Well, hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Cities with John. I'm this old gamer, and I'm thrilled to have you along for the ride today, as we are all set for Downtown episode 27. Yes, episode 27 is here, and opening cinematics, you saw the results of episode 26. We finished around the Arena District, and it turned out fantastic with that little tip of the hat to Times Square. Worked out beautifully, and downtown is just about complete in this area at least, and maybe for good. Stick around, we will be right back.
This Old Gamer is paid for by contributions by viewers like you, and by...
There's lots of parks on Sloop John Island. Hi, I'm Dan Brown, the head of Sloop John Island Parks and Recreation. The Old Dock is one of them, along with Eliza Peninsula. Lincoln Harbor has been there a long time. There's also dozens and dozens of inner city parks and the famous Sloop John Island Canal Park. There's so much to see. Where will you visit today? Visit the parks today. A splendid time is guaranteed for all. So a good look at the ride in via Wilson Bypass, entering downtown and getting off at that exit to get to the Coca-Cola Center. And today we're focused on this area back here, as you might remember on episode 26 via the This Old Gamer Telestrator. I explained that this area was going to be used as a park, a quayside park, or is it Quay? The Quayside Park this is going to be an interesting task and a challenging episode. It was challenging making this park because it is a very tight fit through here, but I didn't really want to put buildings down here. I didn't want to have large buildings right by the quay because I felt like it would block what I'd already kind of developed for downtown. So we're kind of tightening it up, and the first thing we did, as you already have seen, is we extended that road all the way down to this big intersection. So you see there in the background is where the Wilson Bypass ends, and then this road here, which is Park Avenue, is incline from Grand Avenue, and this incline caused some terrain glitching, so I have fix that terrain glitching using slope networks. So if you haven't messed around with slope networks, they're really cool. They work like a network, and you can even use node controller and different things to get them looking right. Now, I didn't cover every single little terrain glitch. As you see, some there are still kind of popping up, but we just fixed that with some trees and whatnot. Here I'm using the large overpass concrete pillars, changing them to procedure objects to make kind of a ledge. So more on that and a little closer look at it here in a second. Put in this staircase, and I have an invisible pathway. This will allow our Sims to go up from this intersection. There is not a crosswalk on that side. That would be incredibly dangerous, but here is a closer look of how that ledge looks. Hills can be a little tricky when it comes to terraforming when you have two networks so close, but I really like the way that this turned out. And you see there's some places for people to sit as they're just sitting and watching traffic. Oh, the fun. So one thing that I like to do with some of the billboards in this game, some of the workshop billboards, although they're great for the sides of the interstates and things like that, there's a little bit less selection at times for billboards that you'd rather just put on the side of of buildings and things of that nature. So what I like to use is procedure objects to make these billboards that are usually for interstates, and just fix them up so they work on the side of the building, just like we did with these two right here. This intersection here where the Wilson Bypass turns into Wilson Boulevard and crosses the Grand Avenue is a very busy intersection. So I do not have crosswalks on the other side of this, and I haven't really finished the crosswalks using my intersection marking tool, but a very busy intersection, lots of foot traffic, and that's why I included some additional billboards. And you see we have some Jaquil signs there Be sure to look him up. Some great props and things on the workshop by him that are very unique, mostly Malaysian based, but very cool looking props on his workshop page. And while we're talking about workshop pages, you know, one thing that I always remind you, which I might do right now, is hitting that like button, because that goes a long way to help me get seen. And the same is the same for the creators of all these beautiful trees and props and assets and networks and everything that makes City Skylines great. So when you're on the workshop, be sure to hit that like button for them as well if you enjoy what they are creating. I skipped over quite a bit of doing some detailing in behind these buildings. This is the opposite side of my little Times Square area from episode 26. Here I'm putting in some curbs that I thought looked kind of neat. Using procedure objects, we're kind of making like double tiered curbs, a little bit larger curbs. You see there's a back entrance there on the right to the Starbucks. That's the same Starbucks that is actually in the Times Square area. But the reason I skipped that is it was really hard to keep the camera in any sort of fashion for you to actually see what was going on. So to summarize what I did over there, I just really put a bunch of decals down, lots of invisible paths, so people had a way to get from the plaza area over to this park a lot easier. And now we are on the other side of the street and starting our park area. So here's a nice little fountain we have, and I've already put in some invisible pathways. There are keys on the workshop that have pathways in them and almost act as a pathway, as a sidewalk, or whatever the case may be. But this particular one does not, which I believe is by Avanya. It does not, but it is a beautiful key that has the little advertisement boards and all that built in, with the fence built in. You might, if you've been around for a while, the original key that I built around downtown and some other areas on the map didn't have the fencing, and I put the fence in manually via props, and boy, that is a task, so I decided to use this key for this one. Now here I am creating a little gas station. I thought this would be a good place for one right here on the back side of the arena, right off the exit off the Wilson bypass. And this is a Valero, which is a pretty common gas station here in the States. And a nice little asset here. Now we have some weird terraforming going on, as you can see, so we're just going to drop these nodes. Gas stations can be a lot of fun. There's actually a mod out there that you can have real gas pumps where the actual gas pumps, like cars, will act as if they need fuel. I'm not really sure how that one works. It seems a little over my head, as I am a non-advanced user. But I don't really want to use that in this circumstance. I don't want to use that mod, so we're just kind of making this gas station look as realistic as possible. I'll put two little entrances there. Thanks to the great node controller mod, which is in beta, and if you didn't catch it, be sure to check out my how-to guide on fast food restaurants. We've created a couple of fast food restaurants over by the hospital, and I used node controller and intersection marking tool quite a bit and got a lot of good feedback on that video, so I appreciate all the likes and comments on that one. It was really fun to make. I do enjoy making those how-to videos. That was my first one in quite a while. I guess there's a tourist going to the gas station there with her suitcase. But yes, the node controller, really cool. You can get rid of the unwanted junctions when you make entrances like I just did with this one with the two entrances. Works really well, easy to use, and being that it's in beta form, I haven't found really any major bugs with it, and it's pretty awesome. If you want a straight tutorial on node controller and intersection marking tool, first off, those two really go together hand in hand, but I would check out BonBonB's tutorial. He has a recent one, and he is basically the king of tutorials on YouTube, I'm not gonna lie. He makes some fantastic tutorials, and the newest, one of his newer ones is that node controller and intersection marking tool, so be sure to check them out and hit the like button on his channel as well. I know he will remind you, there's no doubt there. So these pathways that we just made by the fence here is taking you back to the Quay. The Quay, of course, is the highlight of this park. It goes all the way down, all the way to the very end where it kind of ends with a beach. I haven't exactly decided what I'm going to do when I get to that portion. It's not going to be on this episode either way. So drop me a line in the comments if you have any ideas of what to do with the little beach peninsula that you'll be seeing shortly. I've had some ideas, and I'm not going to say them because I want to see what you guys think. But let me know. I would love to hear some feedback, and same thing goes with commercial ideas or anything else, and hit me up on the old Twitter, whatever you want to do. Would love to have you along with any way you want to connect with me. I am a very chatty guy. I like talking about city skylines and anything else you want to talk about. So we're doing a lot of detailing around the back of this gas station. The gas station was here prior to the park becoming a thing. This park is kind of a newer park, and the gas station owners were not all that thrilled that there was going to be a park right in behind them. But these little juniper trees kind of act as a security barrier, so to speak, and kind of hide the ugliness of a back of a gas station. Also, with this invisible path, as you can tell, we added a little prop ledge. We're going to put another one in here to simulate steps. So when you have these little hills, because one thing that I did before even filming any of this episode was did a lot of terraforming along the Quay. And when you are terraforming, similar to how the hill was over off Grand Avenue that we did earlier, when you're terraforming around networks, sometimes the terraforming tool just does not cooperate. So you have to find ways to get around it. And there's our little finished product of our gas station. Fill her up! But you have to find ways to get around it. And one of the ways to get around it is just making decisions like adding those little props to simulate a staircase. It's not like you actually have to get a big staircase out and whip out your procedure objects. I've had a dime for every time I said whip out your procedure objects. But yeah, you can use those paths, just normal paths, and if they're elevated, just throw in a few of those little steps. Use your ploppable asphalt to kind of simulate multiple layers of those steps, and you're all done. So here I'm using some river rock and gravel decals. Now what this is just kind of filling up the area between the Quay and the sidewalk along Park Avenue. The Park Avenue has parking spots. As you can see, we already have a few cars parked there. It's completely free parking. And of course, you know, as I talk about different things on my channel, there you kind of see a path underneath the bypass that I worked on off camera that takes you over toward the plaza. Anyway, I decided to keep these parking spots free and to not put in a ton of parking meters. I thought it would kind of take away from how this area is very pretty. It's a park. And also, free parking is a good thing for our Sims. Gets them downtown and whatever else. It's not the best parking. You still got quite a walk to get to where you want to go, especially if you're parking down here for a show at the arena. But there are plenty of parking spots and plenty of room. Here we have a little playground set up. So what I'm basically doing, how I kind of did this, is just going down the side of this Quay and then one place after another setting up something of some sort. So the last place we just had that circular bench. Here we have this playground, and then we just kind of continue that trend as we go down the beach. So it was kind of cool because I got to just be like, all right, finish this one, move down a little bit further, do another one, move down a little bit further. And each time I got different ideas of what I wanted to do and all that. But being that there's not really any parks in this part of downtown, it's refreshing to have some open space area and have this nice little walkway for our Sims to check out the views. So you might notice I am plopping down big chunks of asphalt. That is a concrete an actual concrete asset, as I'm using it here as well. Now you might ask, well, this old gamer, why are you not using ploppable concrete, especially since that's one of your top 5 mods that I should be using? Well, the reason is because those ploppable concrete pieces can be raised and lowered, and sometimes, since they're bigger pieces, they don't always fit the way you want them to fit. And decide to use these concrete pads. They kind of work as almost like surface painter, but they do not disappear like surface painter surfaces do. So that's what we use, and we use it right here as we are making Selfie Plaza. Yes, this is the top selfie spot on all of Slough John Island. A beautiful selfie. Either way, if you do it with the ocean to your back or the city skyline to your back, this is Selfie Plaza itself. So might notice those decals that are kind of fading. That's because there's an elevation there. That's one of the few elevations that I just had to just go with the flow on, deal with, because due to the invisible pathways that I definitely have to have, I have to have citizens walking over to the quay. It kind of limited the terraforming and the things that I could do right there. I shouldn't say terraforming. Once I put in those invisible paths, it was like, that's the end of the terraforming. But moving the invisible path nodes up and down, and you have nodes that are right beside each other and things of that nature. It's using the invisible pathway. It's not hard to understand how they work, but sometimes when you have a lot of invisible paths in the same area, those nodes can start getting into little fights with each other and not cooperate. But so Selfie Plaza there, and I'm using a different decal, as you can tell, for this area. So we got away from the white decal that we were using down at the other end, and now we're using this one with more of a pattern. This decal will kind of serve as its own walk path. As you will see here in a second, we just kind of extend it over to the end of this park. Here I have a public restroom for anybody to use if they want. And then we're just kind of doing some detailing with some trees and stuff like that. I use that concrete, and by the way, that concrete prop that I was talking about, that asset I was talking about a second ago, I've put along this quay. So the quay is actually a lot wider than just the quay itself, but it acts in the on the game as a building, so it does go towards your overall building count. I keep thinking that one day I'm going to have a thing pop up and say, you've reached your limit on something, whether it be trees or props or buildings or whatever the case may be. I don't know if that situation is ever going to arise. Hopefully not. I don't know what I'm going to do if it does. I guess I'm just going to be like, well, I guess I'll use the marquee tool and move it and just delete everything. But we'll see. We'll cross that bridge figuratively and literally when we get to it. So there I was just installing some nice little outdoor food snack kiosks, whatever you want to call them. And now we're on the other side of where those were, and we're just extending these tiles out, creating another little plaza using these curbs. The reason that those decals, by the way, what I was trying to say earlier and just totally got off subject as I usually do, the decals, the reason that they're faded is because they are on the incline. But to fix that, all you have to do is just click on them and hit your page down button on move it, and they will darken, for lack of a better term, and look like they're supposed to look like. Now here we have a spot where the decals are not aligning all that great, and I do tweak some of these decals. You can see there's a few of them that are a little off center. I'm just putting in a little advertisement sign. They're very similar to the advertisement signs that are on the quay itself. And now we are just putting in more of these decals. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start, this decal is going to continue to run right along the side of the sidewalk. And then we're just taking 4 of the decals, and it's going to start making this, the decaled area kind of a little bit more narrow. So it'll kind of split people walking through here. This area is going to be used for bikes and lots of foot traffic and all that, and we want to have plenty of room. So I saved this little curbs here for this particular project. Using the procedure objects cube, we made a little wooden base, and here I have a little chessboard that I found on the workshop. Of course, I will link some of these high points in the comments below, and also check out my workshop page for the collection of everything we use here on Sloop John Island. I recently updated it. I don't know if anybody has ever looked at it, but it is there if you ever want to. So put in some benches and things like that. This chessboard looks really cool. I like the way it looks, and that was just kind of like something I found that I was looking for, just something small that would fit on this narrow gap that we're using as a park. This is a good shot of how narrow things are. You have the Quay network, you have Park Avenue, which is a road network, and then in the background you have Grand Avenue. So it's just really tight down here. So you have to kind of find, when you're making parks and you're limited on space, you got to find the right props and buildings and all that are going to make sense for a limited space like this. And this chessboard works out just perfectly. And I really like the fact I put that wood base underneath it. I think that just really makes it look great. It raises it up so it does not, I don't have to worry about the incline that goes along this entire area. And yeah, I really like the way that turned out. So here we are extending the decals, and as you can see, the decals just got slimmer and slimmer, and now we just have kind of like a one path that's leading into the final plaza of this park, where we're going to put this gigantic art sculpture. I'm going to call it Wisdom Cube. It's not the Wisdom Cube, of course. And using procedure objects, I made it a lot smaller because it was huge, which is probably the reason it's so big, is so when you shrink it with procedure objects, you don't lose as much detail. But I decided to kind of elevate it instead of putting it right against the ground, and I'm using these steel beam props just to make it look like it's elevated up. That will also allow me to run invisible pathways underneath it, so citizens will actually stand underneath it, walk underneath it, and I thought that would look really cool. So here I'm just kind of finishing the prop work, like so, and kind of keeping it nice and balanced there with that prop look. This side of the road, it does not have a crosswalk, as cars potentially could be flying through there. So to kind of help with citizens' safety and blocking the idea of being able to cross here, I'm throwing in these little curbs. We're just kind of putting 3 curbs right here. I like to use boulards. I like to use those, but here I'm actually using these curbs and adding this really beautiful dogwood tree. Is that a dogwood tree? I don't know what it was. I didn't read what it was, but I thought these pink trees would really accent the area pretty well. And we're just centering up our little art sculpture here, moving our decals around a bit, like so. Decals on decals. Get up. Oh, no, come back. There we go. Yeah, this one, you go there. No, you're disappearing. You're getting underneath the other one. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there we go. Nice. All right, that works. Quit disappearing. So anyway, we're going to use those same trees. We're going to put some more little curbs in throughout this and use the same trees just to kind of tie in this park, tie in everything all together, as we have lots of different themes of this. We have our Selfie Plaza, we have the fountain, we have the chessboard, we have this art sculpture, we have a Valero. So we're just kind of using these trees to kind of tie it all together and make a finished product. These little curbs here are procedure object friendly, so I made them a little bit smaller. And then these are the Monaco lights. They're very, very fancy street lights, just to make sure we have enough street lamps, street lights to illuminate this waterfront park. I'm just going to put a little bush here on this one. Where's my little bush? There we go. Yeah. And then we're just going to use those same lights and same decals, or not decals, but same curbs throughout this park all the way down. So you see I'm adding them here on the corners of this art sculpture as well. Get in there. There you go. Nice. Yes. So Riverside Park, come on down and hopefully you won't get robbed. Well, that about does it for this episode of Cities with John. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed building it. Episode 27 in the books, the park is complete and downtown is getting very close to complete. Don't forget to leave me a comment what you want on that beach. Waiting to hear from you. And speaking of you, thank you for swinging by and saying hello. Hit that like button, subscribe to my channel for more content, more ridiculous content. We will see you next time. I'm This Old Gamer. Bye-bye.